I've moved 6 times in 2 years. New houses, new towns, new locks on new doors, and every morning, it's there. It doesn't matter if I leave it behind, toss it in the trash, or bury it under 100 pounds of dirt. I wake up, and it's sitting somewhere close, watching. I don't tell people anymore. They think I'm joking, or worse, unraveling. But you need to understand, this isn't a story about a haunted trinket. No, the doll isn't the worst part. The worst part is what it's preparing me for. Before all this, my life was painfully ordinary. I worked long shifts at a grocery store, came home to cheap takeout, and drowned the silence with late-night TV reruns. My biggest fear back then was dying unnoticed, slipping into the kind of obscurity reserved for background characters in someone else's story. I had friends, sure, but nothing that tethered me tightly, just casual hangouts. It's the occasional date, laughter that never echoed long enough to matter. I used to laugh at people who believed in haunted objects until one showed up in my bedroom. I don't know how it got there. No box, no gift, no explanation. One night, I was alone. The next morning, it was waiting. The first time I saw it, the doll was sitting neatly in the corner of my bedroom, legs crossed like a child waiting for story time. Its porcelain face was cracked just enough to give the impression of a smile. I thought it was a prank. My roommate Chris swore up and down he'd never touched it. "Seriously, man," he said, holding his hands up. "Why would I buy some creepy-ass antique doll just to mess with you?" I searched the apartment, half convinced someone had broken in just to leave it there. But nothing was missing, no locks broken. The rational part of me wanted to believe it was some misplaced toy. Still, it didn't belong to us. I should have thrown it out then, but I didn't, and that was my first mistake. Because trying to get rid of it, that's when things truly began to unravel. I tried everything. The first time, I stuffed the doll into a trash bag and dumped it in the dumpster behind our building. The next morning, it was back propped up on my desk, staring at me with those pale glass eyes. I burned it once too. Watched the flames blacken its dress, the porcelain blister and crack. The smell of melted paint clung to my skin. I went to bed that night convinced it was over. But when I opened my closet the next day, there it was. Perfect. Untouched. I even donated it to a thrift store miles away. A week later, Chris found it on our couch. "Dude, you seriously need to chill," he said, shaking his head. "It's just stress, man. You're seeing things." But I wasn't. I started to dread coming home, terrified of where it would be waiting. Kitchen counter, bathroom sink. Sometimes even perched on my pillow like it had been watching me sleep. No matter what I did, it always came back. And just when I thought I'd gotten used to its presence, something changed. A shift so small at first I almost missed it. But then, it started moving. The first time it moved, I told myself I was imagining things. I'd left it sitting against the wall before bed, its cracked smile angled toward the door. When I woke, it was closer halfway across the room, head tilted like it was listening. Maybe I kicked it in my sleep, I thought. Maybe Chris had come in as a joke. Anything was better than the truth. But then, another night I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, the doll's head turned slow, deliberate before snapping back when I faced it. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just following me anymore. I wish it had stayed still. I wish it had only followed. There are rules I'd later learn, but too late for me. I stopped pretending I could handle it alone. Nights were spent scrolling through obscure forums, archived threads with usernames long since deleted. Some posts mentioned dolls that return no matter how far you run. Others spoke in riddles, lists of rules scrawled like warnings. Don't look into its eyes for more than a few seconds. Never leave it near mirrors. Never, under any circumstances, let it hear you say its name out loud, buried in the noise. I found fragments from old journals scanned into PDFs, scribbled handwriting repeating the same thing. It wants something. It waits. One user hinted at a final rule, the one no one dared type. Their comment was deleted minutes after it appeared. But not before I read enough to know. I'd already broken it, but no one online ever said what happens if you break the rules. Desperation makes you reckless. I set up a circle of salt in the living room, a hammer clutched in my shaking hand. The doll sat in the middle, small and fragile, like it couldn't possibly hold the weight of all the fear it carried. I raised the hammer high, ready to end it once and for all. Then it laughed. A brittle porcelain rattle that didn't belong in this world. My arm froze. The doll's head twisted upward until its glassy eyes locked onto mine. And then it wasn't in the circle anymore. It was behind me. I spun, heart slamming against my ribs, but nothing made sense. The salt line was unbroken. The hammer slipped from my hands. "This can't be happening," I whispered. But it is. Every shadow in the room seemed to breathe closer. Tighter. I don't know if I'll make it through tonight. I'm not at home anymore. I'm writing this from a hotel 2 towns over, door bolted, lights buzzing overhead. For the first time in weeks, I thought I might finally sleep. But when I pulled back the curtains, it was already here sitting on the dresser, like it had been waiting all along. I don't hear it move. I never do, but it always finds me. And maybe I'm not the only one. Some of the posts I read hinted at other dolls, other people being followed. If that's true, then this isn't just my story. It could be yours. If you've ever seen something like this, if a doll has appeared in your home, your car, anywhere, tell me. I need to know I'm not alone. Maybe you've heard rumors. Maybe you know the missing rule they never wrote down. Leave it in the comments, because every night feels shorter now, and I don't know how much time I have left. Some of you joke about cursed objects, others swear you'd just smash it. Believe me, I tried. If you see a doll that wasn't there yesterday, don't ignore it. And if you know the last rule, tell me, before it's too late.